What's up,
What's up?
dudes? Captain Gimpy right here. And
That's Moro. Yep.
what are we about to go see?
Crazy Rich Asians.
Yeah, Crazy Rich
Yeah.
Asians. And it's pretty much produced, directed, written, and starred by Asian folk.
Yeah,
So,
and it's pretty significant.
and I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah.
Chances are I'm going to repeat myself later, but the one thing I want to tell you guys up front is that for those of you that don't think representation matters, imagine the lives of a lot of disabled people that think that they can't really do anything because of their physical impairments, because they don't see any examples of that in the media. That would only be a lot of problems.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have more to say, but I just want to throw that out there. My expectations are that this is gonna be pretty fun.
I have a similar expectation.
Because a lot of people in here are hilarious.
Yeah.
Ken Jones, dude, I like him. He was a former med school dropout who
Yep.
turned comedian and actor. He's awesome.
Yeah. I was exposed to him admittedly through the first Hangover movie. Yeah. Yep.
Community.
Yeah.
Much better first exposure. Nonetheless, you got it.
Yeah.
So we'll see you after the movie.
Yep.
Dudes
What's up?
and women dudes.
Mm-hmm.
We just got back from seeing Crazy Rich Asians.
Yeah.
And go see it.
Yep.
That's the end of the review.
Yeah. Thumbs up. Go see it. We'll see you later.
Alright, bye. I'm kidding. So, what's this movie about, dude?
So, Constance Wu plays a Chinese American woman named Rachel Chu,
Oh, look at
and
you.
she is currently dating a man named Nick.
In the
and
movie.
In the movie, yeah. Her character, yeah. And unbeknownst to her,
He's rich as fuck.
yeah, and
I'm not talking about like kind of rich. I mean dude, his family is so rich. They make Bruce Wayne look like he lives in an orphanage for poor people.
yeah, there's mention that his family owns hella land,
They're
a lot of estates.
according to the story, they're old Singaporean money.
Yeah.
Like, they came from China back in the 1800s and developed the land when it was still mostly like jungle and field.
Right.
And so that's why they're as rich as they are, and the family's well known in Asia. And the film centers around Nick and Rachel's relationship in the midst of familial conflict as a family friend gets married.
Yeah. So that's the conflict. Now, the meat of the story, I think, was the best part of it,
What was that?
which it showed the tension between a clash of cultures.
What cultures? Aren't they both Chinese? I mean, I could picture somebody asking
Yeah,
that. So aren't they?
yeah.
Aren't they both Chinese?
So Rachel Chu grew up in America, and she is an economics professor. And when she goes to Singapore to meet Nick's family, she realizes she encounters a lot of resistance because...
And some of it is racism. Like, because they say,
Yeah.
oh, you're not really Chinese. You're American.
Yeah, racism and classism.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Most of the tension revolves around her social class. Because her mom is a single mom, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is looked down on because Confucian society is all about keeping things together and not upsetting the apple cart, staying in your role.
Yeah.
If you don't know what Confucius is, they have books.
Yeah, books, documentaries,
Books.
but mostly books.
Learn to read. Okay, that's my advice. Learn to read and read often.
Right, because the Confucian philosophy it's still alive.
Yeah. It just changes form.
Right.
So let's get to the movie.
Yeah.
So, some technical shit. It was great. Technically, it's a romantic comedy. So first off, it's kind of a genre film.
Right.
So if you have a strong aversion to romantic comedies, you might not like this one. I don't have that aversion.
Me neither.
I really liked the movie, but I figured I would let you know up front. So if you're one of those people, this might not be the film for you. One of the things that I thought was really cool is the way that the shots and the editing really, more than most movies that I've seen recently, match every single mood in the film. From the lighthearted comedy to the lovey-dovey like romantic stuff to the super dramatic angry moments. The editing style changes to fit the mood, which is I think is the mark of a good editor as opposed to someone who's just okay or who has a style. As they say. When somebody tells me, oh, that's just their style, it basically means that to me that they can't adapt. And that's not the case in this film at all. Like, I was just like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
And the only reason I could see the editing is because I was looking for it.
Yep, that eye. And also the characters were relatable.
Oh, dude.
Yeah. It's also significant that this is an all Asian cast.
Yes,
the only good white people were in like the first 5
very
minutes.
beginning,
Yeah.
and I believe there were only like 3.
Yeah, and they were British.
They were British, so I guess they're not really white. I don't know. I don't know how Americans do that whole thing.
Yeah.
I think the whole thing is stupid, but like, you know, people do it.
Right.
So what, dude? Okay, so speaking about the editing and all that stuff, like like I said, these guys are like beyond Wayne family rich.
Yep.
Okay, and I mean way beyond. I'm not even joking. So a lot of the sets are really, really opulent.
Yep.
Because that's just where you are. And one thing about that is every time there's like a party or something, it reminds you of the most opulent music videos you saw throughout the 90s and all the way into like 2005. Like, it was just a throwback to all that good stuff where you're just like, this is some silly party shit.
Yeah, it was over the top.
Yeah, it was great though, because it fit.
Yep.
And then, like, when it got slower, you started seeing a lot more, like, medium close-ups. Very, very rare will you ever see extreme close-ups in any movie.
Yeah.
Except maybe Dirty Harry. You see a few of those in Dirty Harry.
Yeah.
But that, you know, that's some Soviet montage shit. And, well, yeah. But that's when you start seeing a lot more like the medium close-ups and like the 2-shot where you start seeing how close the people are to each other.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just so you could see into their eyes, which I thought was a really like cool thing, because there's a scene when the wedding when Nick and Rachel are mouthing, you know, I love you to each other.
Right.
And like you see a tear fall down Constance Wu's face. And it was so beautifully framed that I cried a little bit.
Yeah,
I was like,
he did.
I did.
But no, the angles and shots were great.
Yeah, whoever they got doing the cinematography, I'm not rich, so I can't pay you, but if you'd help a brother out, I would greatly appreciate it.
Yeah.
For me personally, like, there are things that I want to talk about when it comes to the film that don't have anything to do with anything technical or anything about the story. Suffice it to say, it was very well written. The dialogue was extremely believable the entire time. These felt like real people, and that's the next point that I want to hit on. But before I do, I wanted to say that the soundtrack was awesome.
Yeah.
Because the soundtrack was also all Asian.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you would see like Chinese covers of like popular American music, and sometimes it'd be something completely different, but it was across all genres, and it was like so cool to see. Yeah. Now to the shit that I want to talk about, the family dynamic. The family dynamic was very familiar. I can't tell you how many times I've thought about bringing a girl home, and then I'll hear somebody in my family say something that I'm not going to repeat on camera.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd be like, man, I don't want to put anyone through that. Like, why would I? Because, dude, Rachel Chu's character goes through this stuff. Like, she goes through it. They make fun of her for being low class. They make fun of her for not really being Chinese, for having tits that are too small.
Yep.
I mean, like, being too dark. I heard somebody, like, in the background mention that she was dark as... Yeah.
Yep.
And these are things.
Yeah. In fact, Nick's mom just calls her foreign.
Yeah.
Like, you are foreign.
And it's not even like she's not Chinese enough. She doesn't even think of her as Asian.
Yeah.
She's like, you're American. You don't matter.
Right.
Like, you don't understand any of this. Like, she says, and I quote, "We know how to make things that last. You only care about your happiness, and that's all temporary. That's an illusion."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
End quote. That line stuck in my head. So the thing is, right? Do you like want to talk about the conversation with the mom, the grandma, and Rachel and the dude?
At the wedding?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like when they were at the party?
Yeah, yeah. So, Nick's mom invites them to a more private area of the party, and while the grandma acknowledged that Rachel's character was smart, they couldn't accept her because Nick's mom hired a private investigator to look into Rachel's family history, and they found out that Rachel's mom does have a husband.
Who was still alive.
Yeah, who is still alive, even though Rachel thought her dad had passed away. And her mom uses that. Nick's mom uses that as the reason why Nick can't marry Rachel.
She said, our family can't be associated with this kind of scandal because according to Nick's family, Rachel's mom cheats on her husband, leaves to America, and has a baby with another man. Like, that's the way they put it. When you find out Rachel's mom's side of the story, it turns out that her husband had a lot of connections and he beat her.
Mm-hmm.
And she was staying with a friend she had known for a while, and they fell in love.
Yep.
But because she was afraid that her husband would kill her unborn baby, and the dude, she just left to America and fabricated this story so that her daughter didn't have to deal with it. Rachel had no idea, so it was a bomb on the audience, it was a bomb on the character, and I was just like,
yeah, it was some heavy stuff.
And it's funny because that whole conversation between the three of them, or the four of them, because Nick wasn't really a part of the conversation.
Not really.
He was just kind of there. Which is really what happens. Because I've been on many ends of that conversation. I've been the target. I've been the one people ask to give that talk. I've been in the room. These things happen. And the thing is, this movie is fundamentally about family.
Yeah.
Like, yes, it's a romantic comedy, but it's about, like, the importance that Asian culture places on filial piety. That's what the movie is about at its core.
Yeah.
And how that that conflicts with what we might want for ourselves.
Yep. That's the main conflict, I think.
Yeah. and the screenwriter and the novelist, by the way, this is based on a book. There's 4 in the series. I hope this gets a sequel. I'm gonna put that out there right now. Make it happen! They do this really cool... They have this really cool scene where they're playing mahjong. Nick's mom shows up, plays mahjong, thinks she's winning, and then gets owned by the poor girl.
Yep.
It's weird because you find out that Nick's mom was kind of poor and just kind of like moved herself around in order to position herself in a way where she would become acceptable over time.
Yeah. She wasn't the first choice nor the second choice.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, The movie makes a point of letting you know that, like, maybe Rachel and Nick's mom aren't that different, but she doesn't like her because she thinks that Rachel won't be able to put up with all the shit she had to put up with in order to get there.
Yeah.
And that it's just going to drag the family down, and that's what her number one concern. So that made me think about my own family and the views that they have about people. I honestly believe that most of the time, even in these types of situations where it seems like you're against the family or whatever, the family genuinely wants what's best for you in a way.
Yeah.
In a way. And I say in a way because their intention is to make your life as fruitful as they think it can be.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens is they develop very, very strong and complex ideas about what's good for you. And those ideas are often not what people want for themselves. So it comes down to a choice of, do you want the familial harmony, or do you want to basically do it all on your own?
Yeah.
Because in many cases, it's an all or nothing kind of thing with that. But I think it's important to remember that the intentions most of the time are good. It's just that the actions don't necessarily match.
Yep.
I would definitely recommend the movie.
Yeah, I would too. Not just as a romantic comedy, it is one, but I think it also illuminates a lot of important cultural clashes.
I also want to talk about the idea of representation and why it's important. I was going to put pieces of a video in front of this video, but instead I'm just maybe going to re-upload it to YouTube on my channel. Hopefully it doesn't get taken down. If it does, I will just change the link in the description. Because they do a really good job of explaining why it was important to them personally. When I say they, I mean the writer, the screenwriter, the author, and all the actors and shit. Like, they explain why it's important. But there are some things that I want to say about representation in the media. When I was growing up, I had this vague idea that I was some kind of Asian. And if you don't think that Filipinos are Asian, Nico Santos is in this movie, and he's Filipino, and he's in the movie.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't care what kind of Asian you are. Okay?
Yeah.
They didn't care where the Asian was from. It was just like, if you're good, we want you in the film. And he's funny. He's one of the funniest people I can think of. So here's why it's important. When I was growing up, I had some vague notion that I was Asian. I've said that. Oops. And I didn't really know anything about that because my grandpa didn't talk about it. He didn't talk about his life in the Philippines. In fact, he would actively discourage me at some point in my life from learning anything about that. He got mad when I wrote a speech about what the history behind the Barong Tagalog, if any you know what that is. Not going to explain it here because it's not about that. Mm-hmm. He would get mad at me when I would watch anything in Tagalog. And now he watches TFC every day. But that wasn't my reality growing up. Like, I kind of felt ashamed to exist. And so, the first time I remember seeing anyone who was supposed to be Asian was literally Mickey Rooney in Breakfast at Tiffany's. And that was a damaging-ass stereotype. If you guys remember. If you don't remember, here's the scene. But after that was Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan. And, Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan. Oh, well, no, what's his name? Sammo Hung. Yeah. Those three were the only like positive Asian role models I had. But you know, they made me think I had to like know martial arts and shit
Yeah.
in order to be a good Asian. And I had to be like good at math because people kept saying, "Oh, you're supposed to be good at math." I kind of am sometimes, but just not in the way that people would like. I'm good at really like stupid math that you shouldn't know how to do, like how many grams are in an ounce.
Yeah.
How to dose certain drugs, like pharmaceuticals. Not, you know.
Yeah.
I'm good at that stuff. Like I can do it in my head, but it's not the kind of math that gets you somewhere because they want you to work with computers. They want you to be an accountant. They want you to, I don't know, be a lawyer, something, doctor.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be any of those things, obviously, because I'm wearing a Superman shirt and I'm making videos about movies on YouTube. And that's what I'm doing. And I'm you know, I'm doing things that nobody thought I like would do because that's not what they wanted, and they didn't think that's what I wanted. Everybody thought I was going to be a computer scientist. Shit, even I did. And one of the things about seeing a movie like this is that for once, I get to see Asian people that are actual people.
Yep.
Instead of just Hong Kong movie stars. I love Hong Kong Kung Fu cinema. Always have, always will, but those aren't complete characters made to represent anything about the human experience.
Yep.
So to see this movie, I haven't seen a movie like this since the Joy Luck Club, and it's been 25 years. So if that doesn't tell you something, it should.
Yeah.
And I've had many people over the years tell me that representation doesn't matter. I have a question for people that think that. Because I've had people tell me, oh, it shouldn't matter what race you are. If you're an actor, you should be able to play whatever you want. And that was certainly the logic hurled at me when the whole Scarlett Johansson thing happened with Ghost in the Shell. I think that was a little bit overblown, but the point still stands, right? If it didn't matter, then nobody would be getting mad either way.
Yeah.
When John Boyega was a stormtrooper in Star Wars The Force Awakens, there were a lot of people that were like, hell yeah, but there were a lot of people that were like, fuck you, there ain't no such thing as a black stormtrooper in Star Wars.
Yeah.
I mean, if it truly didn't matter, then none of that rhetoric would exist. And so I just don't think that's true, because the more a group of people is represented in the media,
Yeah.
the more their existence becomes normal. Okay? So, I mean, there's a reason we think, like, why the rhetoric thrives in the United States that Mexican people are drug runners.
Yeah.
Because literally that's what you see on TV all over.
Yep.
Whether it's the news or whether it's fiction.
Yeah, and I live in a household where the news in Spanish is on all the time. And the image portrayed of Mexican Americans and Mexico itself is one of a country overrun with drug lords and really corrupt government officials.
And, you know, the thing is, there's truth to that, right?
Yep. There is truth to that.
But to reduce a group of people down to that's all you are
Yep.
is a whole different matter. And that's one of the reasons this film is important, because Asian people get to see people that look like them
Yep.
on screen and that are actual people, that represent like a person, something that
Yeah.
feels like a person.
Yep.
And that's why it's important.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, the cast is beautiful. Like, they picked the most beautiful Asian people they could possibly find to fill this movie. Male and female. And they did a damn good job.
Yeah.
Not all of us are that, you know. Not all of us are that, fortunate. You're fortunate, yeah.
Too hard on yourself.
No. I have a big head. Shit, what else am I supposed to say?
Representation.
Is there some shit you want to say?
Well, like my friend said, I'm supposedly Mexican American. No, I am.
Supposedly.
Yeah, but my mom sheltered me from a lot of things growing up because I had a language processing disorder, so Spanish wasn't really spoken around me. It was English, but I didn't even reply to English sentences when I was growing up.
And then, by the way, then we found out you had autism.
Yeah, so it kind of made it complex. And I didn't even know what I was until, hell, probably middle school. I started seriously thinking about, like, wait, where do I come from? Even though I was a child and my grandma only spoke Spanish. And at the time, I just thought it was like another form of English. In my naive child brain. But yeah, middle school, I started seriously thinking about, where do I come from? What's this label called Latino or Hispanic?
What's Mexican?
Yeah, and it's because also the media around me, I didn't really have positive Mexican models, honestly.
Role models?
Yeah, role models.
I was gonna say, you mean Mexican models?
Yeah, like, unless they were assassins.
Yeah.
And that kind of affected, like, my imagination in a way. Because then I couldn't think of, like, a character with a Mexican background who was just, like, I don't know, maybe an artist or
even, like, someone who is unremarkable.
Yeah, just a normal person.
Because pretty immediately your brain starts to go, wait, should they, like, have anything to do with the narcos?
Right, the narcos, are they drunks? Are they, like, do they peddle drugs? Like, that's kind of the image that I grew up around, and I was just like, what am I?
Yeah.
And this movie, Crazy Rich Asians, made me think a lot about representation of other ethnic groups in big Hollywood studio produced films.
And the author, like, was talking about when he was growing up. I think he said Malaysia. He said, you know, when he lived in Malaysia as a kid, like, he didn't or was it somebody else? I don't remember, but one of them.
Yeah.
Because there were a few cast members who grew up in Malaysia. And they were talking about how when they were in Malaysia, it wasn't really a problem because you had Asian soap operas, news in different Asian languages.
Yep.
But when he came to America, he didn't see anything. And I can relate to that because, like I said, the only people I had to look up to were, like, Bruce Lee. Mm-hmm. And I said this in a Facebook post, but, like, Bruce Lee felt the weight of that. He understood that what he was doing was important, but he wanted to be an actor too. Yeah. And he was an actor before he ever, like, did martial arts cinema. His dad was, like, some big ass actor with this opera company, and would put Bruce in his movies. Yeah. And they would co-star together, and he was a pretty damn good actor, but he ended up getting boiled down to this dude that just kicks ass.
Yeah.
And that's sad. I mean, it's cool to see someone who has, you know, eyes that kind of do the things, beating the shit out of people, but, like, that's not all there is. So we need more of this. This shouldn't stop. And we should also think about, what are your biases?
Yeah.
When you look at somebody, what's the first thing you think? And don't tell me the thing that you would like to think. Mm-hmm. Tell me the thing that you actually think.
The first thing that comes to your mind.
And there's a difference.
Yeah.
What if I say disabled?
Mm-hmm.
What if I say black?
Yep.
What if I say white? What if I say Asian? What do you think?
Yeah.
First thing that comes to your mind. Chances are you got some sneaky thoughts you weren't even aware of.
Yeah.
And you know, this video is hella long. I might split it into several parts. But I think we should just end it there.
Yeah. Crazy Rich Asians. Go see it.
Thumbs way up.
Yeah.
See you at the movie next time.
The movie's bigger than all of us.
I've waited a very long time, and the last one was 25 years ago with Joy Luck Club.
It is a dream come true to be part of a movie that is such, it's a cultural marker. Like, everybody's gonna remember this movie.